Alright guys, what's going on? It's your man Rekka back again. Anime back when. Now somebody asked me to do my underrated list, like or overrated. People wanted to know what are some of the most overrated anime, how I feel. So I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna throw you guys, some of you guys are not gonna like what I have to say. Tough. So I'm gonna get into some of them. First of all, let me know what you want me to talk about. If you have a topic you'd like to just hear me ramble about for a little bit, let me know, and we'll break it down. But the first one I want to say is Code Geass. Now, a lot of people like to talk about Code Geass, or have like to talk about Code Geass as if it's the mecha, it's the political mecha version of Death Note. And dog, please, like, absolutely not. It's one of the most, for me, I just feel nothing when I watch. When I feel Death Note, I'm following the story. It has this vibe, this dark, with Ryuk and light and, the intelligence part of it and the wittiness and L and this and that and the way the story. When I watch Code Geass, it's just like, to me, Code Geass just feels like another rambly, political mecha, but just with a little bit better, a little bit more drama to it, and a little bit better art style and animation than your average mecha, political, heavy dialogue type of story. That's me. I always could never stand Code Geass. I never could stand it, and the Death Note comparisons, I never could get it. I just always hated Code Geass. I feel like, I don't know, just for me, I don't like, uninspired dialogue, and to me, the dialogue just feels uninspired. That's me though. So Code Geass to me is one of the most overrated. Maybe these days people might feel like, yeah, it's okay. But at that time, back during the Death Note and Code Geass era, Code Geass I thought was some of the most overrated stuff, man. I never could understand it. And speaking of back then, Inuyasha. Okay, now if we're gonna be honest, now I think Bob Samurai actually put this on a list years ago of overrated anime, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Inuyasha is probably one of the most overrated shows. Now, the thing about Inuyasha is a legacy show among anime fans that grew up, basically 90s baby anime fans, basically. And a lot of the love and lore that people have towards Inuyasha comes from the fact that, well, it's still a good show, especially because Rumiko Takahashi was behind it. But a lot of it comes from growing up watching it on TV. Toonami, and for all my Canadians, YTV, Bionics, whatever. We sat in front of that couch in grade school, in elementary school, or however old you were, watching that thing between 6 and 8 o'clock. You know what I mean? Growing up. And that carried into later on in life to where we're all just loving, the nostalgia though of Inuyasha. If you actually look at Inuyasha for what it is, I mean, we're talking about 150 something episodes plus an additional 26 episode. We're talking about damn near 200 episodes worth of content, plus 4 movies with it, and finally wrapping up the story. And if you really think about it, aside from like a handful of episodes, or maybe like a group of episodes, 2, 3, 4 episodes, that are linked together somewhere throughout the 157. After the first couple of episodes, you really don't even really need to watch. You could really just skip to the final act and watch that. Now, of course, there are so many memorable episodes in there. Just some of the, luckily for Inuyasha, right? Even though it is overrated overall, because the story is just, I mean, before I get there, let me say this about it. If you try to put somebody onto Inuyasha that didn't grow up with it, maybe they'll enjoy it for the first like 20 episodes or so. I found this when I did rewatch it years ago, like in the mid 2010s. I found that when I watched it, the first 2 seasons, I was loving it. I was in college, I was watching 2, 3 episodes, before I would leave for school in the morning. I was loving it, you know what I mean? And then somewhere by like the 4th season on the DVD sets over there, somewhere on like the 4th season, which was like the 70s, somewhere there, I started to feel burnt out. You understand? And the nostalgia is probably what took me to the 70s and even made me continue to finish the show. And I remember, like, I fell off for like almost a year before I went back in and just finished all of it. I bought up the last, few seasons for like a year. It took me, you know what I mean? And that was really the nostalgia pushing it. Try to put somebody that never grew up on Inuyasha. I guarantee you they don't get past 20 episodes. They're going to burn out of that formula quick as fuck. Now, the next part that I wanted to get to that does save Inuyasha just from being a bad show is the Rumiko Takahashi written characters. You know what I mean? The dynamic between Inuyasha, Kagome, Shippo, the dynamic between Sango and Moroku, and then Sango got a brother in the mix, Kohaku, and then Inuyasha got a half brother in the mix, Shishomaru. So all of these different things going on, Miyoga, the same formula that, made Rama a success and even Urusei Yatsura, that same type of formula, that's what makes it still an incredible show off of the merit of just being a good show. But it's pretty overrated if you like all the hype, when people like Inuyasha. Technically speaking, it wasn't a great show. It was a good show back in the 2000s to watch, like, once a week, or, the times where it would play Monday to Friday at a certain time. So you watch an episode a day for a couple of years until it's finished. It was good for that. But just generally speaking, technically speaking, it was doing way too much. And the repetitiveness of Naraku shows up and they fight Naraku a little bit and then he runs off and then, But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I might want to, watch that shit again. Because, that's another thing with it too, aside from the characters, is, let's just be honest, that feudal Japan, a lot of us are suckers for that feudal Japan, man. Especially if it's dark with it. And the way Inuyasha handled the feudal Japan. If you think about it, think about the world of Inuyasha, right? It's still overrated, but I'm going to give it a little praise. If you think about the world of Inuyasha, if you think about when Kagome go down that well, and just the world that she's brought into, and when they're just traveling around and you just see, they go to this village and it's dark and it's, you know what I mean? And then some random dude is there and he takes them in and then he goes, and then he turns into a demon and then they got to destroy him by the end of it. If you look at that formula, it's dope. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. It's really dope. It just burns out very quickly, so yeah, it's still a great show. We're not going to sit up here and act like Inuyasha isn't good, but it's definitely carried by nostalgia, so that's what makes it overrated. And I can't believe I just spent like 5 minutes rambling about Inuyasha, but Inuyasha. Now, a lot of people are not going to like me for this one. So, listen. Next, the Satoshi Kon 4 movies. Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, Millennium Actress, Paprika. I'm just going to say it. Now, I don't want to dwell on this too much because this is subjective to me. So I'm not going to try to dwell. I'm not going to try to explain why I don't like it in a way to make it seem like what I have to say is the facts. But because, we could factually say that Inuyasha, does way too much, the episodic thing with, demon, fight the demon, chase Naraku escapes. Factually, objectively, that is something that's very repetitive. To go on for damn near 200 episodes to finally wrap up what they could have wrapped up 20 episodes in, right? What I have to say about the Satoshi Kon movies, I don't really connect to the Satoshi Kon formula like that. Like the psychology of, I don't really get into all of that. You know what I mean? The psychological thriller of Perfect Blue. Even though Perfect Blue is probably his best movie out of the 4, like that's probably the only one I actually kind of do like. I think his masterpiece out of everything he's done is Paranoia Agent. I think that's the best thing that he's done. But those 4 movies right there, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, those 3 out of the 4, I don't like those at all. I don't like them at all. I can't focus on them. I just think the whole Satoshi, rest in peace to him, but I think the whole Satoshi Kon, I think it's overrated. That's me. I don't really connect to the whole psychology of Satoshi Kon movies. But all of what I'm saying, if you don't agree or if you want to challenge me, explain it. All right. This is another one that, Samurai X, Trust and Betrayal. I mean, this has got to be one of the most boring movies that or OVAs or whatever I have ever watched in my life. Now you might say, oh, maybe you need to give it another try. Dude, I watched that thing probably tried to watch that. I watched it completely like 2-3 times. I probably tried to watch it and really connect to it and focus probably over a dozen times in the last like 10 years. How old am I? Not 10, maybe like 7-8 years. And man, I just can't do it. Something about it is so boring. It is one of the most boring things I ever watched in my life. And then on top of that, you know, the fights, the people go on about how the fights are so crazy. And I mean, come on, man. If you want to see crazy fights or whatever on that, you know, old school samurai, whatever, go watch Basilisk. You know what I mean? Go watch Basilisk. Or just watch Rurouni Kenshin. You know what I mean? But, you know, the story with Samurai X, you know, it does not fulfill. For me, you know, when you watch Rurouni Kenshin and it talks about Kenshin's, you know, old life when he was, you know, doing this thing as the what was he again? The word is not coming to me, but you know what it is. When he was that assassin dude back before, you know, the way they built it up in the show and everything, when they put that out, I just didn't connect to it. You know what I mean? I don't know what that's supposed to be. That is one of the most boring things. I think people are overdoing it because it's connected to Rurouni Kenshin. That is my opinion. Challenge me in the comment section below. All right. Next up, this 2 movies from Studio Ghibli. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not saying that Studio Ghibli is overrated, but there's 2 Ghibli movies. Damn sure not Princess Mononoke. Like, let's just clear that up. You know what I mean? Damn sure not My Neighbor Totoro. Let's just get that out the way. But Nausicaa, I'm just gonna be honest, Nausicaa and Spirited Away to me are overrated. Not overrated to the point where they're not good. To me, I feel like Samurai Trust and Betrayal is not good, but they're definitely good movies. But I feel like these are not the ones that need to be at the forefront. When you bring up Studio Ghibli to people, what do they say? People that like older anime will talk about Princess Mononoke, Totoro, or whatever. But a lot of people will be like, well, lots of people grew up with Totoro, but a lot of people will talk about Spirited Away. As far as people that are not heavy anime people, they tend to bring up Spirited Away, and older school anime fans will bring up Nausicaa. And even on blogs and top Ghibli, you know, ranked Ghibli videos, it's always Nausicaa in the top 3. And I never really understood that. I always found Nausicaa to be kind of boring or whatever, you know. And Castle in the Sky is another one I could throw in there. No, sorry, not Castle in the Sky. Howl's Moving Castle is another one I could say is very overrated too. But the 2 that I feel like could replace those 2 is Pom Poko and Only Yesterday. That's for me. Now, Pom Poko, that's the one a lot of people might not remember that one. Pom Poko is the one with the rat. It was basically a sustainability, you know, these days they doing the sustainability thing. It's basically a movie about it's environmental commentary. Environmentalism commentary or whatever, social commentary for environmentalism, kind of like that show Arjuna. You know what I mean? Bob Samurai is a good video about Arjuna, but yeah, it's an environmental type of commentary with raccoons or whatever. And from what I remember, it's been a couple years since I watched it. It's basically the reverse perspective. Like, you know how we look at raccoons like they're fucking pests, like raccoons just go in and you know what I mean, and just eat out your food, eat out your garbage can, and leave trash all over. I remember back the crib that I grew up in, they used to do that all the time in that neighborhood, man. But this is like the reverse perspective about the raccoons. Explain it more in the comments, somebody, because I haven't watched it in a couple of years now. But I remember just really being honed in on that. And then I remember just being very bored as fuck watching Nausicaa. It looked good, but, you know, it had the world and all of that was great, but I got more out of the end of watching Pom Poko. I got way more out of it than I ever got with Nausicaa. Only Yesterday, that's more of a subjective thing, because Only Yesterday, that was more of a that's more of a lesser known or lesser spoke about Ghibli movie. It wasn't even licensed until later. Like, it's one of those ones that got licensed later, they brought over later, you know what I mean? There's another one that didn't get brought over, I think the Yamadas, I could be wrong. There's a couple of Ocean Waves maybe. There's a couple of Ghibli movies that never got DVD or dub releases until years later. And Only Yesterday was one of them, and it's about an older woman, like 28 years old, that goes back to her hometown, and then it gets on some slice of life, you know, cerebral type of thing, psychological-ish type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I got more out of those two movies than I ever got out of Nausicaa and Spirited Away. I don't want to speak too much on this one. I know this is going to ruffle some feathers. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, my thing with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I feel like it did way too, you know, I said this before. When I get around the halfway point of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I just start to feel like, why am I only halfway through this? I don't know what it, you know, I just, for something about Full Metal Alchemist, I just prefer the first series more. You know, that's what I have to say on that. So, you know, you can explain to me in the comment section why you disagree. Next up, Ghost in the Shell as an entire franchise. The first movie is great, but I never understood why people were always hyping up standalone complex. I never really understood that. Like, there's other, you know, stealthy sci-fi 2000s like TV series that you could watch instead of that. Off the top of my head, I would throw you like I'm gonna tell you something. I like Mezzo, not Mezzo Forte. Mezzo, the TV series of Mezzo Forte. I like that more than I like Ghost in the Shell. Believe it or not, you know what I mean. So, you know, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. You know, the movie's great, but I never standalone complex. I don't know. Next one, this is one that is funny. Bubblegum Crisis. Now, Bubblegum Crisis, when you talk about like cyberpunk and like the 80s or whatever, Bubblegum Crisis is almost like God in that world, right? I think it is just dragged on. I think it's way too long. I think it's like each episode is like an hour long, even though it's only 8 episodes. It just goes on. I never really liked the whole singing thing, you know, the music thing with it or whatever, the pop music thing with it. I never really cared about that. You know, when it comes to cyberpunk stuff from that era. Now, I'm gonna rewatch it. Maybe I'll do a video on it. But from what I remember when I first seen it, like Christmas 2000, maybe 18, 17, somewhere there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I never really cared for Bubblegum Crisis. My alternative for Bubblegum Crisis that I'd rather watch Armitage. Even over Ghost in the Shell, I'd rather watch Armitage. You know, that's just me. You know, yeah. Over Bubblegum Crisis, that's really what I would prefer, you know. Next up, I want to say this. The mid to late 2010s seasonal anime stuff, the stuff that got popular like 2016 to 2019. What would those be? One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, you know, now the two that I'll say that was incredible was Demon Slayer and Promised Neverland, the first season, right? But My Hero Academia is probably one of the most overrated anime that I have ever watched in my life. Now, you know, some of the animation and the fights and stuff that I've seen come out like the last couple of years, whenever it was still airing last, I don't know if it's still going right now, whatever that last season that came out, yeah, that was some good looking stuff. But just the overall thing of the show, I find it very childish, and I never can understand it. I was watching weekly when it was coming out. I'll never forget, I was working at the airport, and every Sunday I was like, oh, forgot that My Hero episode. For that whole first season, it was a slog to have. It was such a chore. You know what I mean? It was such a chore. It's like coming home and seeing a bunch, growing up, coming home and seeing a sink full of dishes and knowing that you have to wash them shits. That's what it was like. You can't go to no bed or do nothing until you wash those. That's what watching My Hero Academia was like. I hated My Hero Academia. I do not like that show at all. One Punch Man was a good show, but it was a little overrated. I overrated it at the time too, but I'm talking about going back to it. I'm seeing that it was very overrated. One Punch Man. So that's what I have to say on that one. And a lot of the other stuff that was coming out at that time too. There was some good stuff. Don't get it twisted. Like, in that era, there was Nanatsu no Taizai. Like that was dope. You know what I mean? But a lot of the stuff that came out in that 2016-ish era, even like stuff like Ajin and Tokyo Ghoul and all this stuff. Well, Tokyo Ghoul was what, 2014, but still in that area, a lot of that stuff was very overrated. I'm just gonna be honest, you know. But even Attack on Titan too. The thing about Attack on Titan I'm gonna throw in there, even though that came out like 12, 13, but it was really reaching its peak of popularity in the mid 2010s. If you put somebody on Attack on Titan, you're gonna have to explain to them that, okay, the first couple of episodes, like spoiler alert, when Eren see his mom die and you know, and the Titans are terrorizing everything and they're running around, yeah, it's dope then. But then, you know, when it starts getting all political and all of that dies down, basically for the rest of the goddamn first season. And there was another, I think it's second season, that's just damn near all dialogue till the end. You know, you gonna have to explain to somebody, nah, just stick with it. If you have to do that, it's overrated. That's what I have to say. But it's a good show. I did the videos on them a couple years ago. It is a good, I'm not gonna cap. It's a good show. You know what I mean? Oh boy. Next up, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, am I saying that Neon Genesis Evangelion isn't good? Nope, it's dope. But this is one of those shows where somebody might have to watch it more than one time in order for it to connect. The first time I watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, I was like, because for years I was seeing Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I was the mecha, the purple Evangelion mecha, and just seeing all the videos, everybody talking about it, and Lewis from Anime Every Day, you know, 10 fucking videos that he's talking about it in 9 classic anime, 9 mecha or 10 mecha anime. You're back in the like 2015, 16 when Lewis was still around doing Anime Every Day. Bob had videos on, everybody, you know, was talking about this Evangelion show. You know what I mean? And I go watch it, and it's like, what is this? But then the second time I watched it is when it connected. That's called Overrated. I have another friend that watched it, and he was kind of just like, what the hell am I even watching? You know what I mean? And he got it towards the end of the show. He was like, nah, it's good or whatever the case. But then seeing the memes and then thinking about it a couple years later, I remember him saying, nah, I need to go back and watch it now with the understanding of what I'm getting into, because it actually was pretty insane. And, you know, so it's a dope show, technically speaking, in that aspect. Like, it is it's a phenomenal experience when you know what it is that you're getting into. That classic Anno Gainax type of delivery, right? That psychological delivery and everything. And of course, you know, the cinematics of it and everything like that, the thematics of it. But, you know, the fact that you have to watch it 2 times to really connect to it, you know, I question how many people have seen Neon Genesis Evangelion 1 time, and unless they're bandwagoning and hyping it up. You know, you're going to have to dabble a little bit. You're going to have to get into the lore a little bit more than just one watch to really start loving it. And that will make it overrated in my book. So, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I think the movies are kind of overrated also. You know, let's be honest. Evangelion is meme. It's a meme. It's one big fucking meme. That's really what it is. And, you know, it's been carried by it for generations at this point. And I still love it. I still love the you know, I plan on, that's a video that I will need to do soon. But just understand that it's very overrated. You know what I mean? There's better mecha that you could watch. Not that many better, but there's better mecha that you could watch. You know what I mean? If you're a mecha. Now, if you're not really a mecha person, yeah, then Eva might be one of the ones that you could get into more. And when I say not a mecha person, I'm talking about the mecha formula. I'm not so much talking about the explosions and the mechs and all of that. You know what I mean? I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the culture and the formula of a mecha political anime. And the last one, a lot of people are not gonna like me for this one either. Trigun, and Cowboy Bebop. Now, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Again, great shows, but I don't know how I feel about them both when I think about them now. You know, Cowboy Bebop, right? There's only like 5 episodes in Cowboy Bebop that I think are like A1 level, and then the rest of it is kind of just whatever. The rest of it I could kind of live without watching. Now, listen, I get it. Trust me, I've seen Cowboy Bebop several times. Trust me, it is some of the best anime that you could watch, especially from that era. Trust me, I understand. You know what I mean? But at the same time, aside from those 5 episodes, that's episode 1, episode 5, there's a couple, 13, the last episode, and maybe one more in there. There's like 5 solid episodes that are like some of anime's greatest episodes. But as far as a show holistically, you know, you could live without watching that thing, man. There's other stuff that you could watch. You could watch Eat Man, even Outlaw Star. You know what I mean? Outlaw Star is a complete story, you know? Gene Starwind and I forgot the enemy's name in Outlaw Star. Tell me if you don't agree, you know, but I feel like you could get a more experience out of other stuff than, you know, Cowboy Bebop. There's other stuff that you could watch. Now, Trigun, I think Trigun is extremely overrated. I don't like Trigun at all. I don't like the setting. I don't care for Vash the Stampede. That's just me, though, you know? And I'm just going to leave it at that, man. Tell me what you didn't agree with. Tell me what you did agree with. Hope this answers your question, big bro. I think it was it's my man, Jacuzzi, that asked me that. But, or maybe it wasn't Jacuzzi. It might have been somebody else. You know, I don't think it was Jacuzzi, but whoever asked me that, shout out. And, you know, I'm really loving these videos, man, these babble videos. It just allows me to just sit down and just ramble off my thoughts, you know. And, yeah, so that's it for now. I'm out.